Kentucky is wrought with an avalanche of problems. Many Kentucky counties aren't even providing their own citizens with clean running water, or the water that is provided comes out orange, which no doubt adds to our dental problems. For any Kentuckian to go without clean water to drink is an abomination, especially in the richest country in the world. Not having running water sounds like third world country standards. We can do better than this. Yeah, Kentucky's got problems. We got lots of problems. Our incumbency rate is 95%. 95%. That means that the politician that has been in power for years will most likely stay in power 95% of the time. Kentucky is fascist because we, the people, at least the half that's smart enough to at least vote, keep voting the same assholes into office. We are voting for totalitarianism. We are voting to live in a perpetual police state. This is exactly why term limits are necessary. And you know Bill Clinton and W. Bush would have never voluntarily left office. Too many times these politicians get a little too comfortable sitting in their thrones. George Washington recognized the need for term limits to stop tyranny, to do away with kings and dictators by stepping down after 8 years of public service on his own accord. 95% of our politicians think they are better than George Washington. Kentucky, we are change. Don't kill the messenger. I didn't start the fire. It's been burning ever since Billy Joel came up with that song. It's been burning since before Robert Kennedy exploited eastern Kentucky to show the world how some of us Kentuckians are skimping and we're barely getting by. Or when Kentucky native Diane Sawyer recently did the same. Just look at our numbers. The numbers don't lie. Kentucky is number one in all of America in all these categories. Kentucky is number one for child deaths in child abuse cases. We are literally beating our children to death. Kentucky is the number one state in America for animal abuse. We are beating our pets and our livestock too. Kentucky is number one in America for cancer deaths. We're dying off faster than every other state in this country. And Kentucky is number one for tooth decay, even surpassing West Virginia standards. Kentucky is the number one state in the nation for having the poorest mental health. That means Kentuckians are the craziest people in America.
Roll call change on 96 members being present. Carry prayers for quorum, House duly constituted, Mrs. John Hopkins.
This prayer is never take you to go to House Room.
Those basic activities, keep courtroom, House and Jake Sword, John Hopkins.
This prayer is said to be adjourned. If everyone would like to have 10 days split with the same person.
Those basic adjourned, April 9th, year over 2000, split with the same person, John Jake John Hopkins.
This prayer is said to be fly her.
We got Republicans who are Democrats and we've got Democrats who are Republicans. But we the public don't mind all the hypocrisy because we just keep electing the same leaders over and over again 95% of the time. And if we Kentuckians continually do the exact same thing over and over again and expect different results, then the statistics are right about us. We're insane. Kentucky is the number one state in America for our prison incarceration rates. Per capita, we are shoving more Kentuckians into jail than every other state in this country. Kentucky is a police state. Some of us Kentuckians get sick of the stereotypes of being labeled backwards, like Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel. And the jokes do get old. But if we were to figure out a way to eradicate poverty, and we started to solve all of these problems, then we will have created a culture that would be impossible to exploit. Kentucky is the 7th poorest state in America. Even our legislatures are impoverished. Each one of them make less than $15,000 per year. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for the sheer power. And that's why we remain the 7th poorest state in America. Some of our counties have over 10,000 poor people. Kentucky is number 3 with the most children in poverty, 25%. 1 out of every 4 Kentucky kids are poor. 1 out of 4. That's ridiculous. In all 120 Kentucky counties, our lavish courthouses mock our poor kids, just as our over-the-top Capitol building does for the whole state. And why Kentucky is misnamed the Commonwealth, I'll never understand. I don't see hardly any of the common folks enjoying that wealth. When the 2010 census came out, we can see how our poverty rate has changed in the last 10 years. Kentucky's got all the coal in the world, but even Kentucky cities have difficulty keeping their streetlights on. Kentucky is the 8th worst state in America for premature deaths. The child mortality rate is our society's civilization litmus test. Our babies should not be dying. Kentucky's civilization is failing. Kentucky is 49th for physical health, which contributes to Kentuckians' heart problems, our obesity, and our cancer epidemic. Kentuckians are in the worse shape than 48 other states in America. Kentucky is the 10th state for having the highest air pollution in the country. Small contributes to our cancer epidemic. Kentucky is number 9 with the most work-related deaths. Our working people are dying on the job. That's ridiculous. And it has a lot to do with the fact that Kentucky doesn't have very many unions. Union intimidation is at an all-time worst, and since there's little protection for unions, workers don't have a vehicle to demand a safe work environment. Kentucky is the 6th fattest state in America. 37% of our children are fat. Nearly 2 out of every 5 kids. And that's because 31% of our adults are fat. And that number has increased from 10% in 1990. In only 20 years' time, the number of fat people in Kentucky has tripled, which also contributes to our heart and cancer problems. Kentucky is 47th in education. We're the 4th dumbest state in the country. Our education system is broken. It needs to be scrapped and done over again. 40% of Kentuckians, 2 out of 5, are illiterate. There's too many illiterate Kentuckians. We need adult reading classes to teach all of our people how to read sentences and words and books of sentences and words. Kentucky is number 2 for the most preventable hospitalizations. So when we finally do go to the hospital, it turns out to be for nothing. We're not good at managing our own health care. Kentucky is the 8th highest state in America for having the most cardiovascular deaths, and Kentucky is 9th in America for overall sickness and poor health. Kentucky is the 4th highest state in America for binge drinking, which is remarkable considering 70 of Kentucky's 120 counties are dry. Alcohol sales are illegal for the majority of the state, so prohibition and the law doesn't stop a Kentuckian from getting their drink on. Kentucky is number 3 in America for having the most smoking and smoke-related deaths. And in Gallatin County, we're number 1 for smoking and smoking-related deaths in the whole state of Kentucky. So my home county is the worst of the worst when it comes to smoking, which contributes to Kentucky's cancer epidemic and our dental problems, among other factors. It's hard to get rid of Kentucky's image when we've got lots of illiterates and drunks and smokers. Our health is so bad that we are currently experiencing a cancer epidemic. We are number 1 in America for cancer deaths. Working men and women are falling to their death. And some of us are beating up on our kittens and our cattle. And our babies are dying prematurely. And some of our babies are being shot to death and beat to death. Many Kentuckians are poor, sick, fat, dumb, toothless, illiterate, drunk, and crazy. And most of these problems are interrelated. Education is a cure-all solution for every one of these problems. But we can only fix our problems if we acknowledge them. We need education and common sense, and in spite of the lobbying restrictions preventing the public from speaking to our legislatures when they are in session, we need to demand more from our politicians, and we should be in Frankfurt right now telling them what we think. Our politicians need to quit being politicians and start being representatives. The General Assembly doesn't represent me. The poor and working families of Kentucky represent over 90% of Kentucky's total population. In some Kentucky counties, the poor demographic is over 10,000 people. Working people and poor people are the majority. And when we've had enough of the bullshit and demand more for ourselves, then we'll get it. Currently, Kentucky's legislature is faced with a $1.5 billion